So first we're going to talk about headlines, and headlines are the most important thing. And so let's go through what is a headline. So I pulled out 3 legends of copywriting that say almost the same thing about the purpose of a headline. Eugene Schwartz said that the purpose of a headline is to get them to read the second line. The purpose of the second line is to get them to read the third line. The purpose of the fourth line, and on and on and on and on. Joe Sugarman said that all the elements in an advertisement are primarily designed to do one thing and one thing only, to get you to read the first sentence of the copy. Michael Fortin said that a headline is meant to do 2 vital things. No more, no less. First, it needs to grab the reader's attention, and this headliner's second job is to pull the reader into the copy. So why is a headline important? Well, David Ogilvy, one of the godfathers of advertising, said on average 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. So the headline, obviously very important. Gary Halbert said, "How important are headlines? I'm glad you ask. I, myself, have re-headlined ads and increased their pull," which means, I guess, conversion in web terms, by 475%. He has a client who pays him $195,000 a year just to write headlines. He said he spends more of his time writing headlines than anything else he does. So how do I write an effective headline? This stuff was, when I first started learning, it was just amazing. I'm thinking, I never really took headlines seriously, but once I started learning some of this stuff, it was really helpful. And so there's this guy, Dane Maxwell, he's not an old guy in the marketing industry. He's a pretty new, young guy, but he is amazing, and he's learned from a lot of these guys. So he has a formula that says, to create an effective headline, you take the end result that the customer wants, the benefit, a specific period of time plus objections equals a headline. So you look at Domino's. This was done in like the 80s, and it's still going. People still think that this may be, this is the rule that Domino's has. I don't even know if it's still in effect, but it says hot, fresh pizza delivered to your door. That's the benefit. In 30 minutes, that's the time frame, or it's free. That's the objection, because the natural objection is, well, what happens if they're not there in 30 minutes? Realtors will use this one. Dane talked about this one. He said, your home sold, the benefit, in 90 days, the time frame, or I'll buy it, which is the objection, which what happens if you don't sell it? Well, we'll buy it. And so here's another one. You can mix these up. You don't have to have all 3. And Dane talks about, having all 3 is great, but you don't have to have all 3, and you don't have to have them in the right order. So this one, it starts out with the time frame in 1 hour. Learn the copywriting systems that will double your conversions. So that's really just about the time frame and the benefit. So if you look at, this is a perfect example of a landing page that is using 2 of the things. So it's create a landing page, which is the benefit, and in minutes, and that is the time frame. Here's another one, which is the astonishing power of eye tracking technology, the benefit, without the high cost, which is the objection at the end, which, that looks like something that would cost a lot. They address the objection right in the headline. This one, learn web development in 12 weeks. The benefit, what you're getting, learning web development, and then the time frame at the end in 12 weeks. So it's another guy, Michael Fortin. I love his blog, and I'll put it in the show. I'll put it in the class notes. He has 2 of his favorite ways to write headlines. One, he calls the gapper formula. And it's really to create a gap between the problem and the solution. And so he said that a headline that communicates a problem, for example, a painful situation or potentially painful one that may arise without the benefits of your offer, will have more impact. And he talks about the pain-pleasure principle that Abraham Maslow states that if given the choice between pain and trying to avoid it or getting pleasure, they're going to take avoiding pain almost all the time. So this is a great one from Less Accounting. And so the pain is that all small business accounting software sucks. That's the pain, and we just suck the least. I love that. This is another one from Hardest. Because time tracking should be easy. Their audience may think, and I think too, the time tracking is sometimes a real pain. And so they're addressing that pain by saying that time tracking should be easy. And there's a lot of curiosity built into that. So the other one that Michael Fortin talks about are triggers. And he said to ask yourself, does my opening statement or headline beg for attention and genuinely cater to the dominant motives and emotions of my market? So these are some of the ones, and there was a ton of them. I just took some of them. And so let's say we're creating a budget app. Let's say we have a budget app. We're trying to create a headline. Using curiosity, we could say, find out how we saved John $1,000. That creates a lot of curiosity. Fear is a good one. A budget that can help you prepare for the worst. That may strike fear. I don't know how I feel about that one, but you could say also with pain, sick of spending hours creating a budget. Creating a budget is a pain in the butt. Convenience, we make budgets easy. This one's a really popular one, and I'm going to give you a big folder of landing pages that I found that are great. A lot of them use the word easy. So I think convenience and laziness must be popular because everybody wants to make things easier. And so laziness is the same kind of thing. Create a budget with little effort. Greed is an effective one as well. Boost your income by more than 317% when you do such and such with our budget software. Appealing to pride, power, or ego. Manage your budget like a millionaire. Manage your budget like Donald Trump. On and on and on. Another one, assurance. This is where you can do what we're going to talk about later on, which is a risk reversal, saying in less than 60 days, guaranteed. And that guaranteed word is very powerful. It creates an assurance in your headline. And the last one, anger. This is like you can use like the 99% kind of thing where it's the banks are ripping you off. Here's why. That's also a very effective one. So Eugene Schwartz wrote the book Breakthrough Advertising. And this book is amazing. I tried to get a copy on eBay and they go for like $500 because they're out of print. So he has some pretty amazing things on what to do when you're stuck writing a headline. And so he has a couple, and I'm going to go, there was a ton of these. I'm going to go through a couple of them. So the first one is measure the size of the claim. 37 signals, they're masters at landing pages. Here's one for Basecamp. Last week, 6,565 companies signed up for Basecamp. This is a very powerful number per week. Last week, per week. That's very powerful. They're measuring the size of the claim. DocuSign, more than 27 million people trust DocuSign for an e-signature. That's a ton of different principles packed into one headline. That's a risk reversal. That's using social proof. But it's also measuring the size. 27 million people. That's a lot of people. This is another one, measuring the size at 14 million sites can't be wrong. It's a little bit vague. This is probably not as effective a headline that they could use for this. It's from Add This. Another thing you can do is measure the speed of the claim. So pull everywhere. They'll say instant audience feedback. That speed, using that word, emotional words like instant, that can be very effective. So compare the claim. This one I love from Kissmetrics, and I've learned a lot from Kissmetrics in their blog. And so this one says, Google Analytics tells you what happened. Kissmetrics tells you who did it. So they're saying that Google Analytics is just going to give you some basic data, but Kissmetrics is really going to get into the people behind who's visiting your site. I thought that was a really effective headline. Demonstrate the claim with an example. This one didn't appear in the actual headline, but it did appear in the subheadline. So it says, we keep your wallet from leaking by helping you compare, manage your insurance, save 96 minutes and $362 on average. So that's showing a very specific example right in the headline or the subheadline. So state the claim as a question. I found two great ones for this. 1Password, this is the app. Have you ever forgotten a password? I think everyone can relate to this headline. It's also got a lot of pain. It's also appealing to a lot of pain that people have with forgetting a password. Rescue Time, I use this app. I love it. And this is the question that I've asked. Am I really spending my days the way I want to? And Rescue Time tracks your time and what you're doing on your computer and then lets you know that you're wasting all your time on Facebook. But it's a really great headline. It's in a really great way to create curiosity by asking a question. Stress the newness of the claim. This one can be a little bit vague. Next generation banking. You've got to watch the buzzwords, when you're using cutting edge and things like that. But if you do it right, you can do it effectively. So stress the exclusivity of the claim. So this one, Live Plan, write your plan with the #1 business planning company. This is really the only one that I can find that was actually using exclusivity. I'm not sure who votes for the #1 business planning company, but you can do something that you can provide in your headline what your unique value is, what your unfair advantage is using that exclusivity. If you're the only one that has a certain technology, then you can really bring that out in your headline. So this is another one that was very interesting about where you put the most interesting part of the headline. So I think when I was looking here, he said there was a doctor, Flint McGoughlin, and he said to bury the phrase in the middle, or he said the worst approach is to bury the phrase, the most valuable phrase, in the middle. Readers will invest in the first few words. If they don't find something valuable, you've lost them. So if you look at a front-loaded headline, get paid, that's the most valuable part of the headline, and it's right there in the beginning. A back-loaded one would say, take online surveys from home and win cash and prizes. Well, win cash and prizes, that's the key word, but they put it way at the end of the headline. And so I looked at Giftly. It's an okay headline, but if you look at a revolutionary way to give great gifts, they could say give great gifts in a revolutionary way, right? So now they have a front-loaded headline, which I think might be a little bit more effective. Lander, it's very front-loaded. It's actually very effective. Design landing pages that work, no pain, just gain. It's a little bit obnoxious, but whatever. It is very front-loaded. Design landing pages that work. That's the unique value. And so let's apply it.